Otherwise, give it up for Leo and Luca. Otherwise,
hello. Hello. This is JSR, from private ownership to open governance. So first, who are we? I'm Leo, software engineer at Dino, working on JSR, particularly the dog generation aspect. And
yeah, I'm Luca. I also work at Dino. I also do standards work on at TC39, so on JavaScript itself, and at Whatwig on various fetch or various web specs like fetch. Yeah.
So first off, what is JSR? I mean, how many people here know what JSR is? I mean, a fair amount, I would say about a third. How many people have used JSR? Half of that, okay, fair enough. So JSR is our modern JavaScript registry, so similar to NPM, for example, that supports TypeScript out of the box. So you don't need to transpile to JavaScript first. You can just upload TypeScript directly, and consumers of those packages can just import without problem. But it does not replace NPM. It lives alongside it. So you can, for example, use NPM dependencies in your JSR packages. And it works across different runtimes, be it Dino, Node.js, Bun, Cloudflare Workers, you name it. As long as it supports package.json and no modules folder, it will work.
And ESM?
And ESM, yeah. Yeah, because that's all I think. ESM is required in JSR. You cannot use CJS. We don't like it, so you don't get to use it. And it's completely open source and free. So it's not like NPM that's closed source or has like a paid tier if you want to do private packages. It's completely open source and free. And so why? Well, complexity. Publishing to NPM is too complex. I mean, as mentioned earlier, TypeScript just works. With NPM, you first have to transpile it, generate the DTS files, etc. And it's just not a clean process. In terms of just setting that up is hours of work.
Yeah, you set your export maps, your like dependencies. Do you know the difference between dependencies, peer dependencies, optional peer dependencies, like all these things? No, you don't want to know.
Yeah. And innovation. Well, NPM really hasn't changed anything in the past years. They don't add new features. They don't really interact too much with the community. So that's why we want to change that. And
quick question to the audience. Like, who of you knows what the last feature is that NPM shipped? Raise your hand. Go ahead. Workspaces? Good guess. I mean, it's like about that age. Yeah, it's the little like blue TypeScript icon at the top left of the package that tells you whether a package has types. That was like 3 years ago. So.
And yeah, I mean, we all know like the JavaScript ecosystem. Oh, a new framework every day. Well, so it's moving really fast, but NPM is just holding back, or rather not changing anything. So yeah, we want to address that. And well, our values, which unlike NPM is owned by Microsoft, JSR is completely open. And so yeah, open source, community, and open governance are the core principles. Again, for example, in the case of NPM, it's known that they don't really interact with the community. They don't really care about issues in the community. Like, let's say there's a package that someone else should have, but they don't transfer it. And there's been problems like that all over the place with NPM. So these are things that we also try to address. So I guess it's demo time.
Yeah. I guess like better than us explaining it is just showing you how it works. So this is the JSR website, jsr.io. To start publishing a package, you go here, you sign in, and you click Publish a Package.
I'm already signed in, so I'm just going to go to Publish a Package. So
there's one interesting thing about JSR. So unlike NPM, which has these top-level packages that everybody can sort of squat, JSR doesn't have this. In JSR, every package is in a scope, and you're limited with the number of scopes you can register. So you can't like just register the entire world and then get people to pay you to release those packages, right? Like you cannot squat packages on JSR. It's explicitly against our policy, and if you do see someone do it, tell us. We'll fix it.
So I'm not going to create a new scope because I already have one, but usually you can just click here and create one. But I'm going to select an existing demos scope. And I'll call it Fosdem 2025.
Yeah, so we'll create the package. What this will do is it will just like tell JSR, hey, I'm about to publish this package, and it'll give you some instructions for how to do it. So you're going to get this little JSR.json file that just contains the package name, the current version of the package, what license it is, and then an exports field. And this exports field is not the same exports field that you have in package.json. It's much simpler. It does not support conditional exports. You don't have to specify types in there. You don't have to specify CJS versus ESM, all of these things, because JSR just supports ESM, and you can publish TypeScript out of the box. So yeah, this is the shorthand syntax where we're just exporting mod.ts. Leo's going to copy that into a repository.
So I have an empty directory here. Just going to create a JSR.json and paste it in.
And then we're going to just create a mod.ts file. No package.json, no TypeScript configuration, nothing, just a TypeScript file. And start exporting something. So let's write like a simple function. I don't know, adding numbers, I guess. That's always a good example. We're going to take two arguments, a and b, return a plus b. And this is TypeScript, so we can actually annotate this with types. So you can do a is a number, b is a number, returns a number. I know, crazy, right? And then let's also add some docs, because JSR can actually generate documentation automatically from your code. And for this, we're just going to use the regular JSDoc syntax. Yeah, I guess what does this function do? It adds two numbers. Yeah, at least. If this isn't the most popular package tomorrow, I don't know. We're going to go really all out documenting this year.
Yes.
Cool. So yeah, that's about it. So we have a package now. Let's publish it. So to publish it, you can either use the JSR CLI. You can use that through, and actually, can you go back to the JSR website? You can either publish with npx JSR publish, or whatever your favorite package manager is, or you can use Dino publish. It's built right into Dino. I presume you have Dino installed, considering you work there. So maybe use Dino publish. It's exactly the same thing.
So let's do that. Dino publish.
And then here's another interesting thing you're going to see. JSR does not have tokens that persist to your local machine, because there's a lot of security vulnerabilities that come with that. Namely, people can steal those tokens. So when you publish locally, you actually interactively authorize publishing by clicking a link in the CLI. It sends you to the website. You click on approve, and then it publishes. And that way, we can make use of two-factor authentication and all that kind of thing. So now it's going to publish. We're going to wait here for a second. That was pretty fast. And the package is published to JSR. You can all see it now, jsr.io/@demos/fosdem2025. No docs found. We don't have a README, and we don't have any documentation in the index of the module itself. But we can look at the documentation for the add function. So if you hit the docs tab, you'll immediately see these are all the exports from the module. You see the documentation here that Leo wrote. And if you click on the add function, you'll see the parameters, obviously the return type, and then all the documentation that Leo wrote for those parameters. Obviously, for an add function, not so important, but as you can imagine, this gets very useful if you have large packages. And then on the right there, you can see how to import these packages. So you can use this with all kinds of different things, with Dino, npm, yarn, pnpm, bun. We remember what option you chose there, so if you often use bun, for example, you can select that. We'll always show you the bun instructions. But yeah, so what we're going to do now is just demonstrate that this is actually working. We're just going to copy that second thing right there. This doesn't actually require an installation step in Dino. It just works out of the box. And I think you're just going to start a REPL and import directly from this add function from JSR. It'll download it. We can have an add function, and let's hope it works. It does. Woohoo! We can add numbers. Cool. Yeah, so that's publishing. If we have time at the end, I'll show you how the publishing, or how to consume this in NPM. But the other really cool thing about JSR is that we score your package with some automatic metrics. And you can use this to sort of judge from the search, for example, whether a package is really something you want to be using. For example, does it have documentation? Does it have a description? Does it mark which runtimes it uses? All these things. Score is currently 58. We can improve this. We don't have time though, so we'll do this some other time. This is probably going to impede us to being the #1 package tomorrow, but oh well. Cool. So let's move on to some other features. Yeah, tokenless publishing, I mentioned that before, but actually we also do this from CI, so you can publish directly from your CI machine without having to set up any tokens in that CI machine. For example, on GitHub Actions, there's OIDC tokens. These are sort of a standard authentication mechanism coming from CI vendors that allows you to publish without having to configure any static tokens that can be leaked. In JSR, you can just specify this is the GitHub repository I'm going to be publishing from, and then add Dino publish or JSR publish to your GitHub Actions, and it just works. You don't have to set up anything else. Export provenance. So when you publish, we publish a sort of manifest that describes what you've published, from where, with what hashes, into a public registry that is tamper-proof. So you can actually see that any given package, who it was published by, when it was published, where it was published, from what repository it was published. So you can sort of follow the supply chain to make sure that not some random person is publishing something that they shouldn't have been. And then, yeah, documentation generation. You saw that a second ago.
Yeah, I mean, we just generate documentation for all the typings and functions that you export and try to make it as good looking as possible. But now, the actual thing that the name of the title of the talk is governance.
Yeah, so obviously we cannot compete with NPM on the thing of open governance if we don't have an open governance structure. And so far, we haven't. So far, JSR has been completely open source. It's been the source has been available, and we've been taking PRs from contributors in GitHub for both the backend, the CLI, and sort of anything that is touched by that. But we now want to expand to actually have an open governance, where we have a board, a governance board, consisting of members from all kinds of different companies in the JavaScript ecosystem that can control this without any specific company having undue influence over the project. So yeah, why do we want to do this? We don't JavaScript itself is not controlled by a single company, right? JavaScript is standardized in TC39 in a standards group with many different companies, all the browser vendors, many stakeholders of JavaScript, and we don't really want the registry that JavaScript developers use to be any different from that. It should be controlled not by one company, but by a group. JavaScript implementations are also open source, like V8, JavaScript Core, SpiderMonkey. These are all open source. So why shouldn't the registry be open source too? And we've seen in the past that NPM being closed source is very unfortunate. It means there's no way for the community to force innovation other than in package managers. We've seen this in package managers. Like when Yarn came out, NPM, the CLI got a lot better because GitHub was forced to do something. But there has been no competition in the actual registry space itself, so like the back end. So GitHub hasn't been forced to innovate there. Yeah, so JavaScript needs to be open source, governed by the community, and open to innovation.
So the board members are Evan Yu, Isaac Schluter, James Snell, this guy, and Ryan Dahl.
Yeah, Evan Yu, the creator of Vite and Vue. You may know him. He is currently starting a new startup called Void Zero. Isaac Schluter, the original creator of NPM, now co-founder of Volt, which is a package manager tool for NPM that's not quite launched yet, but it's getting there. James Snell, a Node.js TSC member, so this is the technical steering committee of Node.js, and he's a principal engineer at Cloudflare. Me, I already told you who I am, and then Ryan Dahl, who is the original creator of Node.js and also the creator of Dino. So what does this board actually do? We oversee JS. So the thing that we want to do is move JSR to a foundation. A foundation being like something like the Linux Foundation or something like that. And the board is going to figure out how this works. So how this works in practice, obviously, but also figuring out whether we need to spin up our own foundation or whether we can move to an existing foundation like the Linux Foundation OpenJSF, for example. We will set the general direction of the project. This is not like the day-to-day operations of like what PR gets merged and what PR doesn't, but it's more like this is the direction we want to go. So like we don't want to support CommonJS because of these and these reasons. Or maybe in the future, there's some new dialect of JavaScript, like TypeScript, that we may want to support. The board is the group that will decide this. Yeah, the second thing is sort of that same. We will obviously determine how the governance board evolves moving forward, like whether we need to add more members, whether there's members that, I don't know, want to leave. We will also establish a moderation group. So another part of the problems with NPM is the fact that moderation happens by GitHub and by Microsoft sort of with their own policies that are not really public, and is very arbitrary, honestly. And we will establish sort of an open moderation group that anybody from the community can join, will be voted into the group, and they will determine what the moderation policy is and actually enforce the moderation. So determining, for example, whether a package is actually squatting or not, whether a package should be moved from one owner to another because it is unmaintained, things like that. And then we will figure out how to actually do the day-to-day of reviewing contributions to the project, and then obviously how to do funding. This is a very big question. Like, how do you publicly host what is effectively a content delivery network in an open source context, right? This is like you're having people download very large pieces of code, essentially, from the internet. Somebody has to pay for this. And how exactly this works, we don't know. Dino is in a state right now where we can absolutely pay for this, and we are going to, and we're willing to. But in the future, we will have to figure out whether this involves other companies also sponsoring JSR, whether this involves us working with CDN vendors like Cloudflare or Fastly to pay for bandwidth, or whether there's something else entirely that we could do. And we'd be very interested to sort of hear your thoughts on this.
No, to clarify on that, we also had the first meeting. And just to quickly skip to one point is that there is the discussion of operation cost, which were reviewed, and networking being a notable expense, as Luca just mentioned. And there was interest from exploring caching solution and Cloudflare potentially supporting to help mitigate the cost. So technically, we already potentially have Cloudflare taking that over. And then there was discussion about moving JSR to an open structure, just to make sure that it's actually independent and not just run by Dino like it is currently. Adoption trends were shared internally. The need for better tracking of active usage and download metrics were noted. And then technical challenges were discussed, like better interoperability with NPM, being able to self-host, having private packages, improved package manager support, so being able to have better integration with the likes of NPM, Yarn, etc., and enabling direct HTTPS imports, which has been a relatively popular request, being able to just import a JSR package in the browser via HTTPS URL, but that obviously opens the big concern of cost, because then you're just turning into like JS deliver, and that's not cheap. Yeah. So, any questions? Yeah.
As a maintainer of open source project, what is my strategy if I want to support JSR? But I still want to help NPM users. Should I support it to the boss platform, or there is an easy way to from not users to use JSR? What do you suggest for maintainers of open source projects?
Very happy you asked this question. Leo, do you want to do the demo of importing from NPM?
Sure, if it works.
We have some extra demos here that we apparently have time for. So that's a great question. If you have an existing package that maybe is already published to NPM, how do you publish that to JSR? So you have two solutions. Either you dual publish to both NPM and JSR. You can do that. That's perfectly reasonable. But JSR actually supports people with the NPM package manager or Yarn or PNPM importing your package. And if you go to the website, Leo, and we go to the sidebar and click on Use with NPM, you can actually see here this npx JSR add command.
So let me just delete the package itself. We don't need it anymore. Just noise. And I guess, do I need to create a package JSON first?
I think so.
Oh, Yes, sure. Oh, added one package. Yep.
You can see there's a node modules folder that has the package inside. And this is sort of the NPM transpilation output of the package. So this is, if you publish any package to NPM in TypeScript, we will automatically transpile it to JavaScript for you for NPM users. And users can just import it using JSX and NPM, or sorry, NPX JSR, whatever. And actually, in the future, we're hoping to sort of have more native integration with package managers like NPM so that users can just specify a JSR colon something something in their dependencies array in their package JSON and just have it installed out of the box. Yeah, we'll see where that goes. Does that answer your question? Cool. Anyone else? Yes.
It's 5 minutes to publish, and I've published a package just now on JSR. Thank you very much.
Hold on. Perfect.
Anyone else?
Any other questions?
Anyone else publish a package suddenly?
Cool. Yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can join our weekly open working group meetings and office hours. Ignore this dino.co link. We don't have a redirect service on JSR's domain. But yeah, this is like an open meeting on Discord where you can join every 2 weeks, I think on Thursday. And yeah, you can just chat with folks using JSR. And yeah, if you want to try JSR yourself, JSR.io. And if you want to contribute or just look at the source code, JSR-io/JSR on GitHub. Cool. Thank you very much.